What matters most? You could be the best learner in the world, but if you are learning the wrong things, you're not going to get where you want to go. That's why it's essential to understand the terrain, get an overall idea of the scope of what you want to learn about before you set out to learn it. But most people don't do this, and for the longest time, neither did we. My husband Paul and I were guilty of diving into the details, all the details, when we set out to learn a new topic. Learning something new took forever. And that's why the essential first step when you set out to learn a new topic is to understand the terrain. And a way to do this is to get the big picture. Get the overall scope of what you want to learn before you set out to learn it. Doing so will make your learning process far more efficient because you know what to focus your time and attention on. Understanding the terrain is the first step in our 3-part framework, Principles of Learning. Principles of Learning is a free guide Paul and I created in order to make the learning process efficient and effective. It's a hands-on, practical learning system from the learner's perspective that you can access for free at howtolearneffectively.com. No matter what topic you're learning, you need to take time to get the big picture, and that's the topic of this video. Let's dive into it. As I said, getting the big picture means to identify the core concepts you need to learn before you set out to learn them. Say you're going to put together a 1,000-piece puzzle. Before you begin, you take a long look at the box because the box lid contains an image of what the puzzle looks like when complete. You mentally note the major features: a bridge, several skyscrapers, a river, and a sky at sunset. You've just made your puzzle process easier because you took the time to get the big picture, a high-level view of your task and what to focus on. So now, instead of dealing with 1,000 random pieces, your mind is primed to think about the major components that you'll have to put together and how they relate to each other. When you get the big picture, you move from disorder to order, complex to simple, difficult to manageable. Think of getting the big picture like a filter. It'll help you distinguish between the nice to know from the have to know. Now, typically, when people set out to learn new things, they just dive right into the topic. They dive into all the details, as Paul and I used to do. They sink a ton of time and effort into learning everything, only to realize after the fact they only need to know a fraction of what they set out to learn in the first place. And this is why getting the big picture matters. Identify what you need to know right now, the core fundamental concepts you need to know, realizing full well that you can always circle back to a topic and pick up on the nuances, pick up on the details if and when you need them. Getting the big picture will make your learning process far more efficient because you know what to focus on. Think of the 80-20 rule when you set out to get the big picture. This rule states that roughly 80% of the results come from 20% of the efforts. So, for our purposes, identify the topics that will give you the biggest return for your time and effort. Now, it's not to say the details don't matter. They do. But this is the important point. You don't need to know everything right now. Besides, the details, if you need them, will be far more meaningful if you have the core concepts in place first. It's a point made clear by Elon Musk, who wrote, "It is important to view knowledge as some sort of semantic tree. Make sure you understand the fundamental principles, i.e. the trunk and big branches, before you get into the leaves details, or there is nothing for them to hang on to. Indeed, the details are much more meaningful when there is something to hang on to." Once you get the big picture and know what to learn, then you're ready to move on to step 2 in our Principles of Learning framework, how to learn it effectively. And that's the topic of our next video, and I hope you'll join me for that. In the meantime, we'd love to hear from you, so please leave a comment below. Let us know about your learning process. Thank you so much for watching, and make it an effective day.